It was at this hour, 24 hours ago, where Donald Trump made another series of statements to contradict his own timeline. And so the New York Times and other serious outlets in the news section, not some big opinion attack, have just reported the fact that on this matter of life and death for Americans and everyone in the Mideast region, the president has been sending confusing, clashing, and sometimes downright contradictory messages about what we're doing in Iran and how long we'll be there, sometimes within one day, more typically every couple days. It is, if you will, the opposite of a doctrine and more of a what's he going to say today. He is also being pressed by his own White House team at the highest levels as people inside the Trump administration who report to Donald Trump and may want to carry out his goals as best they can are seeking an off-ramp. We have that reporting for you right now. We also can tell you there are new strikes rattling Tehran. As of tonight, 8 confirmed U.S. deaths, roughly 140 Americans injured, according to the Pentagon. The AP estimates the Iranian death toll at over 1,000, around 1,200, which is a number that does keep changing, obviously, as this goes on. Some of Trump's advisors privately urging him to look for an exit plan, the Journal reports, amid the spiking oil prices and concerns over a lengthy conflict, sparking a backlash. That backlash in the polling has already begun. And so the Journal reports they're encouraging him to at least, quote, articulate a plan to extract the U.S. from the war and make the case the military had largely achieved its objectives. Trump officials, we want you to know, deny this report, although clearly the Journal had multiple sources. This is a matter of war. They don't just push this out lightly. There may be people inside the White House who desperately want Donald Trump to hear about this, whether that's through the Journal or the television coverage of it, which is a dynamic we've seen in the past, because they're putting this out there one way or the other, according to the Journal's multiple sources. There's scrutiny on the contradictions. Is this war almost over, or is it actually just beginning? Have we basically completed it, something that Donald Trump said as recently as yesterday? Or are the most intense strikes only beginning now, today, something that the Pentagon chief said? And what does it mean to claim we may have basically already won?
We've already won in many ways, but we haven't won enough. I think you'll see it's going to be a short-term excursion.
It's going to be ended soon.
What I want your viewers to understand is this is only just the beginning.
It's not for me to posit whether it's the beginning, the middle, or the end.
Are you thinking this week it will be over?
No,
Are you talking
but soon.
about days?
I think soon.
Okay.
Today will be, yet again, our most intense day of strikes inside Iran.
Mr. President, you've said the war is, quote, very complete, but your defense secretary says this is just the beginning. So which is it, and how long should Americans be prepared
Well, I think
for
you could
this war
say
to
it
last?
both.
You could say both, but then you would be contradicting yourself. And you would be giving misleading information to the American public if you said it is both basically over and going on for a long time, to say nothing of the brave men and women around the world who represent the United States, some of whom are obviously in harm's way and trying to plan this out. Now, no one is suggesting that every step of the war will be publicly telegraphed, but whether you're asking people for a short-ended operational commitment or a long-term potential boots-on-the-ground war is a big difference. And I'll remind you, as we've reported, this is the only time we've had a conflict of this level where the president hasn't given a formal address to the nation. It was only around day 10 when he went to do a press conference, and that seemed to be a response to stock and oil price jitters rather than telling the public what we're doing, why we're doing it, and roughly what kind of long-term operation it is. Then you go to the scale of this thing, and I want to show you this because it really is astounding. This war has now involved 20 countries at a military level. That would be shooting, shielding, or supplying, according to Axios. There's also the widening energy shock that punishes nations, of course, beyond the 20 on the front lines. Another way to state this conflagration is that the war now has more great powers and more overlapping conflicts than any crisis since the Cold War, quoting the same article. So how is that all being absorbed in this country that is one of 20? This war was unpopular from the start, which is rare. Most Americans already oppose it. About 41% support it. And if you put it up against other wars, you can see it's an unusually rough start. Most interventions begin with some initial boost. It's a kind of patriotic tendency to rally around the flag, as political scientists put it. And if the war remains broadly supported and popular, like the top numbers you see on the left, wars that are seen as almost obvious and existential necessities, responding to 9/11 or World War II, a high watermark, well, they stay popular. The numbers go down over time. The Iraq War, of course, was split and ultimately ended widely opposed, but Iran being the least popular from the jump, as unleashed by this president, Donald Trump, is historically bad. Oil prices fluctuating, gas prices are up, Americans paying 20% more already at the pump than just last month.
If it stays like this, it's going to be pretty bad. It's going to stop people from traveling.
We're from Tampa. We came down to Miami for a funeral, and it's like, I just looked at the price. I was like, wow.
Right now, I'm already at $65 and still pumping.
I'm just getting killed right now. I mean, gas prices are so high, and, you know, they were high before this war.
We got to drive. We got to work. I'm working now, you know, for rideshare. And I don't know what that's going to look like next week, because if gas is $4 a gallon, I'm done.
That's the immediate reaction from real people around the country. Whether or not they're following foreign policy closely, they are learning about it at the pump in real time. The war's cost is clear. The Pentagon says what they've done already is over $5 billion in the first few days.
What just seems so insane based on what he ran on. I mean, this is why a lot of people feel betrayed, right? He ran on no more wars and these stupid, senseless wars, and then we have one that we can't even really clearly define why we did it.
Well, but he said he's against endless wars.
Well, they're all
against endless wars.
Listen, man, they're all endless.
How are you feeling about the President Trump?
That's a open-ended question.
Yeah, that's revealing. The bottom is dropping out on his support, even in his base. Mm-hmm. This is a really unique, I think, defining moment for how the country is viewing him, his administration, foreign conflict. Over 70% of the country is against this war. That's the highest percentage of people against any war since World War II. I mean, there's no precedent for how unpopular this war is. And I think it's really important to understand it comes on the back of the unpopularity of ICE. So you've got these two overwhelmingly, bipartisanly unpopular elements that I think is actually an opportunity. In every crisis, there's an opportunity. This might be the one moment that defines the unification of America, because they're united not just against Trump, but against ICE and against Iran. You've got the left wing, the right wing, Joe Rogan, everybody in between is against this war. The big problem is Donald Trump doesn't care. He doesn't care about public opinion. He continues to go forward, all gas, no brakes, and nothing's slowing him down. And what I want to hear from every senator today is not just alarm and concern and anger. What is their plan to slow him down? Are they going to defund the Department of Defense? Mm-hmm. Are they going to impeach him? Are they going to come up with other ways to slow him down? Because so far, nothing is slowing him down, including popularity of wars, to include if he goes into Cuba. We should expect him to go into Cuba in some way militarily, like he did in Ecuador last week, and most Americans didn't even notice.
As you say, I mean, there was a legislative push on the War Powers Act, which Republicans basically interfered with. So some of them are making noise, but they don't actually want to call him out and use the powers that are there. Steve Bannon may not be a preeminent foreign policy expert, but he has military background. He has been in the White House, whatever you think of him. And here's where he comes down on some of this.
You just can't sit there and go, shine us on about imminent threat. Oh, yeah, it's not an imminent threat. No, it doesn't work like that. The people in the messaging department over there got to get serious about this. You're going to start losing people if there's not consistency. Just to kind of shine on imminent threat. No. Incorrect, sir. Incorrect, Mr. Pete Hegseth. There was not an imminent threat, and now we're in it.
Yeah. We are deep in it. We're deeper than we've ever been before. It's a regional conflict, and the bodies are already coming home. And that's what all Americans will not tolerate, is caskets coming home wrapped in American flags, with likely more to come. And some in this White House and some in the Republican Party who seem to have no problem with it. There's a whole new generation of chicken hawks, people who are willing to send other people's kids to die. And Trump's base, most of this country, has some connection to our military, and they don't want to see American men and women come to die. The question is, what is Trump going to do here? And usually he does something, and it looks like the circular firing squad is focusing on Hegseth. He continues to fumble. He continues to be unpopular. He says egregiously negative things. I don't think he represents us very well to the world. I think that's becoming bipartisan. And the question is, does Trump make some kind of move to make it seem like he's making a move while he continues to go all gas, no brakes. That's what he did in Minneapolis, right? He pulled back on Minneapolis. He made a staffing change, even removing Kristi Noem. But strategically, he's still pushing ICE forward across this country. And I think that's going to be his problem here. He's deeply into this now, and it's going to be hard to get out.
Yeah.